Ben Carson is one of the most successful American neurosurgeons in U.S. history. CNN and Time magazine once named him one of America's 20 foremost physicians and scientists. In 2008, he was awarded the prestigious Presidential Medal of Freedom. He was also a candidate for the office of the President of the United States for the 2016 election and was the nation's 17th Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. In short, Ben Carson has accomplished quite a bit in his lifetime. As such, we've decided to dig into the inspiring life and achievements of the Mr. Carson in this Ben Carson Success Story special. There's no such thing as useless knowledge. Ben Carson is a world-class leader and successful professional whose inspiring success story can teach us, guide us, and benefit us in unimaginable ways. So with that being said, we aim to touch on the making of Ben Carson along with insights he can convey over the years on how other people can lead successful lives as well. So without further ado, let's dive in. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more similar content. Ben Carson was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1951. His mother was one of 24 children who got married when she was 13 years old to Carson's father, who was a factory worker at a Cadillac plant. Ben Carson was just 8 years old when his parents separated, and his mother was forced to go back to work to support Ben and his brother. Considering his mother was only 13 when she got married and had never worked, she had to take up employment as a domestic worker, in other words, as a maid, and moved her and her kids to Boston to live with her sister. Carson and his family would eventually move back to Detroit after a couple of years. Carson would describe the experience as a desperate situation, stating that he lived in multi-family tenement. His environment was miserable, where boarded-up windows and doors in his neighborhood was the norm, along with sirens, gangs, rats, and roaches. On top of living in poor living conditions, Ben Carson was being made fun of at school. Kid would call him a dummy, make him the butt of class jokes, and teased him constantly, all of which ultimately led to Carson's lack of belief in himself, which became apparent to his mother. It was at this time that his mother also noticed that his grades were lagging behind his peers. As such, she put her foot down and minimized the amount of TV she allowed Carson to consume. She also began requiring multiple book reports every week from Ben and his brother. Fortunately for Ben, this strict regimen would eventually pay off, as both Ben and his brother would begin doing better in school and eventually aspire for higher education and succeed at it. School days. Ben ultimately excelled in school and would eventually earn a full academic scholarship to Yale University, and after 4 years, he eventually earned his bachelor's degree in psychology. Once he finished his undergraduate degree, Ben Carson would go on to attend medical school at the University of Michigan. During his first, he struggled academically. In fact, because of the challenges he was facing, he considered for a brief moment dropping out from medical programs entirely. However, he persisted, and after the first year, Ben got his bearings by spending most of his time studying the textbooks and lecture notes versus attending the lectures. Eventually, Ben mastered the medical studies, got elected to the school's Medical Honor Society, and acquired his MD from the school. Ben Carson's next act would be played out at Johns Hopkins University School of Medical School, where he would finish his residency. Professional years. Ben would eventually become Johns Hopkins Director of Pediatric Neurosurgery, and after a few years there, he became the lead neurosurgeon of a 70-member surgical team. Ben would go on to perform increasingly complex surgeries, with one of his most well-known being that of his first separation of conjoined twins. After nearly 3 decades of performing increasingly complex surgeries and gaining a celebrity-like status from his medical successes, he would eventually retire from the medical profession. And it was at this point that Ben Carson would go on to have a successful career in publishing and public speaking, publishing multiple New York Times bestsellers, dozens of peer-reviewed articles, star in movies, and become a contributor on various mainstream media news publications. Ben Carson would eventually become a household name after running for the presidency of the United States of America. Accomplishments. Without a doubt, Ben Carson is an inspiration to many across the country and world. He had a slow start, but he overcame his adversities, gained momentum as time went on, and has become a shining example of possibilities for millions of people. Here's just a sample of his many accomplishments. Awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Horatio Alger Award, 38 honorary doctorates, has had a high school named after him, awarded the Library Congress Living Legend Award, awarded the William E. Simon Prize for Philanthropic Leadership, named by U.S. News & World Report as one of the best American leaders, elected into the National Academy of Sciences Institute of Medicine. Success Insights. Ben Carson has shared many of his success insights in his book and the many interviews he's given, and he has given credit to his mother for much of his success. In fact, he states that it was his mother's belief in him that helped him believe in himself. He also states that his mother never accepted excuses from him or his brother, and that she did not accept victimhood for herself or for them. As such, the foundation for much of his success comes down to his mother's belief in him and her unacceptance of excuses. There you have it, the Ben Carson success story that covers his journey from the impoverished neighborhoods of Detroit to becoming one of the most well-known surgeons in the world. We've uncovered the success ethos that has guided Ben Carson in creating the massive success he now enjoys. That was all from us today. See you in the next one.